The year was 1962, and the 413 Max Wedge was breaking track records every day. Because of this, Chrysler achieved credibility on the street overnight. So what did they have up their sleeve next? Well, it was the 426 Max Wedge. So let's go check it out. In 1963, the cubic inch was increased from 413 to 426. The Plymouth version was called the Superstock 426, and Dodge called it Ram Charger 426. Just like the 413, they were available in any B-body Plymouth or Dodge, except for the station wagons. The engine came with two different compression ratios, 11:1 and 13.5:1. Obviously, they weren't made for the streets, as the engineers recommended 102 or higher octane. The 11:1 engine was rated at 415 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 470 foot-pounds of torque at 4,400 RPM. The 13.5:1 engine was rated at 425 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque. The bottom end of the engine had a forged steel crankshaft, which was shot-peened with hardened journals. The connecting rods were magnafluxed, and the pistons were forged aluminum. The oil pan had anti-slosh baffles in the front and rear to keep the oil available for the pickup, which was a special swinging pickup design. It would swing to the rear under acceleration and to the front under hard braking. The 426 pickup tube was increased to a 1/2 inch from 3/8 the year before. Moving to the cam, it was a mechanical one with the 509-inch lift and 300-degree duration. This cam was changed mid-year, but we'll get to that soon. The heads had dual valve springs with high-strength retainers. The intake valves measured 2.08 and were streamlined for higher airflow. The exhaust valves were a huge 1.88 inch, which required the engineers to machine notches at the top of the cylinder bores for clearance, preventing them from hitting the block. The ports in the head were 25% larger than the previous Wedge engine for much better airflow, and the heat crossover was eliminated for greater volumetric efficiency. To assist those large ports in removing the exhaust were streamlined high-rise exhaust manifolds. At the top of the engine was the cross-ram intake manifold, which mounted two 4-barrel Carter carburetors diagonally across from each other. Each carburetor fed air and gas to the opposite side of the engine. In the front of the engine, the pulleys had deep grooves to hold the belt at higher RPMs, and the water pump had a small diameter impeller. If this engine wasn't enough, during the 1963 year, some changes were made. First, they enlarged the primary bores of the carburetor to match the rear bores, giving more air capacity. They were 750 CFMs instead of 600. To boost more airflow, machined cuts were made to the combustion chambers of the heads near the intake valve seats. And they increased the lift of the camshaft to 520, and the exhaust duration increased to 308 degrees. These changes were significant enough to change the name of the engines to Superstock 426-2 and Ram Charger 426A, or Stage 2. Mysteriously, the advertised horsepower remained the same. And if you believe that, I have a bridge for sale. For 1964, the name changed again, this time to Superstock 426-3 or Stage 3. And while the internals remained similar, the outside looked very different with new exhaust manifolds. The streamlined ones were replaced with the Medusa-like tangle of cast iron. Each cylinder had 21-inch branches which fed into a series of wide pipes and then out to a larger 3.5-inch collector. The Stage 3 also improved the intake manifold, modifying the runners. With each change to the engine, the competition mostly saw the taillights of the Max Wedge cars. 1964 was the last year of the Max Wedge. Why would they end such a game-changing engine? Well, they introduced a new one, which some of you may have heard of, the 426 Hemi. Check out more of my Mopar videos here, including the 413 Max Wedge, and I'll see you in the next one.